A very good afternoon to you. You're watching The Punter on Sports Tonight Live. I'm Trevor Harris, and joining me for the next hour, Flash Gordon-Watson. How are you, Flash?
Good, thanks, Trev. Yes, sport everywhere you look, so
Everywhere.
couldn't be happier. Couldn't be happier.
It's going to be a fantastic Easter of sport. We're going to look at odds all across the board in the next 60 minutes or so. We've got golf, we've got cricket, a bit of rugby, snooker, you name it, we've got it, but mostly football for the next half hour or so. What's your assessment, Flash, first of all, of the Premier League? I mean, you've been banging on all season about United. Anyone who took your advice has clearly got value. Is it all over now, or is there still a sniff for Manchester City?
No, I think it's all over, because I think the Man United will go to the Etihad if need be and do whatever they need to do. But I still see that the harder running is Man City's. They've got Arsenal at the weekend, and if things don't go their way there, then it certainly will be over. Yeah,
and it may be that game at the Etihad might not mean a great deal by the time we get to it.
No, that's what I've been asking for a long while, is that Man United actually go there, win the league, and actually get presented with the trophy on the pitch with the red, black and white ribbons on it.
That will hurt Manchester City.
Yeah, and it also won't happen. There's just absolutely no way that the Premier League will be able to condone that.
Well, you can see the league table behind us there. 5 points the gap. The goal difference has narrowed, just one goal in that. And United look to have a very winnable game at the weekend. And as you say, City go to Arsenal. That gap could conceivably be 8 points in a couple of days.
Yeah, again, I mean, as soon as it gets to... I personally think it's over now. But I just see Man United, they know what to do. And they've also got players that are really fresh. Yeah. They've had players that have been out injured all season. We said this about they'll play them in the Europa League. They'll get fitter. Whereas Man City, they look tired. The players that they've relied on all season are now looking very leggy, but not just leggy, but they're tired in the brain as well. And they're going to need to be well on their game at the Emirates come Sunday. OK,
well, we reckon it may well be all over at the top, but it's much, much closer at the bottom. I think this, Flash, could go to the wire.
Oh, it will do. And you know, I mean, Wigan... won the last game of the season at Stoke last year, and that's what saved them. They know what's needed. I think Blackburn, they'll be fine, because they've got real goals and firepower throughout their team. Queen's Park Rangers, they've got the hardest running, but again, they've probably got the best individual players. So Bolton, I still think they'll be Bolton, Wigan and Wolves.
Are Wolves doomed?
Oh, yeah.
No way back?
No way back, because their main leader, as I've been harping on since they left, was Mick McCarthy. Yeah. You get rid of a leader, you've now got a rudderless ship. And it's been proved. I mean, they've got no points hardly since he left.
Yeah, and Wigan, back-to-back wins recently. No one saw that coming. They looked dead and buried, but now they've given themselves a chance.
They've all got chances now, but this is the thing that frustrates certain fans, is that for the whole season they couldn't buy a point, and now that they desperately need it, they're starting to produce. So why didn't they have that mindset and urgency earlier on in the year? It's very exciting, but only if you come out on top come the end of the season.
All right, well, there's one game this afternoon. It kicks off in just under an hour. It's at the Liberty Stadium, almost said the Vetch then, which shows my age. Swansea versus Newcastle United. Been a great season for both these clubs, really, particularly Newcastle. When Alan Pardew arrived, Flash, all sorts of moans and groans from plenty of Geordies. You don't hear those anymore. They've still got an outside chance of a Champions League place, but Swansea has proved a very tough place to go this season.
Yeah, and they did show that type of form last year that actually got them into third place in the playoffs. And because they didn't let any goals in, and at certain stages they always had pace and patience, and they won games. And they've took that philosophy into the Premier League. I think they've only been beat 3 times at home this year, which is a massive platform for safety, and they've done it in the right manner. They've not been as good or as strong away from home, and they'll need to look at that if they want to progress again next year.
Yeah, 7-5 if you fancy the Swans at home. They're finding it hard to split these teams, really. 15-8 Newcastle or 19-10, and the draw shade better than 2-1. Is the draw the value, the outsider?
Yeah,
here?
Again, I think the draw is probably the most likely outcome. But of all them, I think that Newcastle, any other of the top 4 or 5 going there would be 5-4, 11-8. So if you can get nearly 2-1 about Newcastle winning against a promoted side that are safe, could well be accused of being on their holidays, then I would probably go for Newcastle. I mean, I've gone for Newcastle to win it against Bolton on Easter Monday, but I would not be against them today. So mine probably would be, I would lay Swansea.
Well, there you got the various score lines. Correct score betting, of course, is available. If you fancy a draw, 1 apiece is a reasonable 14-1 chance. Newcastle to win, 2-1, Flash is a 9-1 shot? Or 10
I think the
to 1 shot?
2-2, I mean, if we're going to take on board the draw, we know that Newcastle score goals with Demba Cisse and obviously Demba Ba, and you've got Caballé and Gutierrez. I think that 2-2 at 66 is very good value. And I would almost like to go maybe 2-1 or 3-1 to Newcastle as my Newcastle win bet.
All right, I tell you what, I'm going to get a bit controversial here because I'm waiting for this season to finish, the bookies to come out in the summer with their odds for relegation, and I'm going to back Swansea for various reasons. One, because we've seen this happen before. Reading, of course, did really well in the Premier League a few years ago, then went down. But I watched the game against Spurs the other week when they lost 3-1, Flash, and you said already they're not as good away from home. I think even Brendan Rodgers would accept that. They lost to two pretty poor goals to concede. A free header from a corner with this zonal marking nonsense they do. Another header by your header late on. And they rather surrendered the initiative in that game. And I don't see them having the threat to really hurt sides at the other end of the pitch. Yeah,
and the big thing is now that they are safe. He can plan ahead. Now, that's providing that Brendan Rodgers, the worst thing that can happen to Swansea is Brendan Rodgers get offered a top 6 job. Now, if he stays, he knows what he's got, he knows what he needs to rebuild and be stronger, especially away from home, because the one thing that you would aim at them, yes, they're brilliant on keeping the ball, yes, they are tough to break down, but they haven't got much steel. So when they go behind, they're not going to often come back and beat you.
Yeah, okay, interesting. We'll see those odds in due course. Right, on to Sunderland versus Tottenham. This is the early game tomorrow at the Stadium of Light. Martin O'Neill, of course, has worked wonders since he arrived there. They were in real trouble when Steve Bruce was manager, but O'Neill has sorted things out. Tottenham, of course, locked together with Arsenal, battling for that third Champions League place. And of course, it's not impossible that Chelsea win the Champions League. It's unlikely, but they could do. And if that happens, fourth won't get in probably. So Arsenal and Spurs, they've got to finish third, or they've got to try to.
Yeah, they have, and it's highly unlikely, and it's near impossible for them to win it. Obviously, playing against Barcelona, they've got nowhere near enough guns to beat Barcelona over 2 legs. Tottenham here again, top 4 going to Sunderland. Sunderland are not in good shape at all at the moment. I mean, they've just been knocked out by Everton over 2 legs. They've got done away from home. They got beat again at home last week. So for me, Tottenham at 2-1. That's unbelievable
5
value.
to 4 is short for Sunderland.
Yeah, lay. It's a lay all day, Sunderland, because you've got Tottenham and the draw running for you there. And obviously, I think that Tottenham will win. They've got a little spring in their step, and the little downside that they had, I think it's well and truly gone.
Yeah, and it may well be that Aaron Lennon starts the game, and I think they have missed him over the last 4 or 5
They're a
weeks.
different side because they have width on both sides. They have Bale one side, Lennon the other. They have normally Adebayor up top, and then Modric and Van der Vaart. They switch, and they're able to go and get the ball and dictate the play, and they've got 2 outs. So if they go down the right, they can switch it to the left. If they're in that inside left, they can switch it to the right. And then you got Lennon one-on-one or Bale one-on-one. Trouble. Yeah, what do you make of Nicholas Bentner and how he's performed in his loan season at Sunderland? Although he says he's never going to play for Arsenal again, but that's probably not his decision. Well, he should be lucky to play for Arsenal. He's really lucky even to be involved with Arsenal at any stage of his career, because I've seen him quite a few times, and he's a poor man's Ibrahimovic. In his own lunchtime, he thinks he's an absolute hero. And for me, I've not got a lot of time for him, to be honest.
That's what I love about you, Flash. You never sit on the fence. Brilliant. We're going to move on to the next game, Bolton against Fulham. Bolton, of course, right in the middle of a relegation fight. Fulham, I think it's been their best season, Flash, has it? And they're not a great team to follow, because I never quite know what Fulham are going to do on any given day.
No, Fulham away from home, you've got to oppose on a normal weekend, because they have been so poor. But with Bolton, that's the big problem you get with Bolton. You don't know what Bolton's going to turn up. They had a little resurgence because of all the feeling that was running high for Fabrice. Then all of a sudden, they went to White Hart Lane and put in a real flat performance, because, again, the adrenaline has not kicked in, and it sort of drained them a little bit. So for me, I'd probably think that the best Bolton I think this is a sitting on the fence draw.
Yeah, 9-4 about the draw. Is a draw enough for Bolton? They wouldn't really settle for that, would
No,
they?
they wouldn't. But there again, the other teams around them have got tough games. And again, at this stage of the season, any point is better than no points.
Yeah, and the whole Muamba thing, it does seem to have brought the club together, doesn't it? There is a feel-good, not a feel-good factor, obviously, but there's some kind of strengthening spirit-wise, I feel.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, they say that sometimes in the face of adversity comes through so many positives, and that's been the big positive, that they've all got a cause now. Now, the cause of actually staying in the Premiership obviously wasn't strong enough because they weren't doing it. But now, all of a sudden, they've got that togetherness, and they're doing it for their mate. They should have been doing it from like last August, but now they have got a cause. I still feel that they will come up short come the end of the season.
All right, well, we haven't seen any odds-on shots yet, but we're about to, because we're going to look at Chelsea versus Wigan. This is at Stamford Bridge tomorrow, 3 o'clock kick-off. You'd expect the home side to get the points 1-4 or 2-9. And look at Wigan. You can get a big price about the lads.
I fancy they're around the wrong way, the draw and the Wigan.
Yes, they are.
They've got to be.
They are.
But I seriously believe that the way Chelsea have come off the other night, Wigan are good value, or not good value, but there would be worse 12-1 shots.
Well, no one saw them winning at Liverpool, did they?
No, nobody. And then Wigan are a little bit like Bolton. They have individual players who can actually turn it on. Victor Moses, Gordy Gomez, and 12-1. And Chelsea already got semi-final coming up against Tottenham, semi-final against Barcelona. Yeah. I know that they're fighting on all three fronts.
No John Terry, of course, with his crack ribs. He won't play.
And the big thing about John Terry at the moment is, even though he's not fit, he was marshalling. You could see that the ball was up the other end of the pitch, and you're looking out the corner of your eye, and he's having to organise international players to defend properly. It
was no coincidence, was it, that Benfica goal, free header from a corner, came when he was off the pitch?
Exactly. I mean, and that's a big problem they're going to have, because now they're going to look to the likes of Ivanovic, Cahill, Luis, and Ashley Cole. Now, there's no real natural voice amongst them four, and two of them four are pedestrian. So Wigan will go there and then not 12-1 shots. I wouldn't put anyone off having a couple of quid on Wigan at 12s.
OK, let's rattle through the next few games, starting off with, well, two crisis clubs, I guess you'd say. Liverpool versus Aston Villa. How do you see this
Liverpool
one,
all the way for me. I'm only because how bad Villa are.
Is that purely based on price that you're saying?
No, I'm not even looking at the price, because they're 2-5. You're not going to get rich. I just certainly wouldn't be opposing them. Although they've had a real bad run this year. I think they've only won 5 of 15 at home. But Aston Villa are really poor. No Darren Bent, so that means you've got no natural goals in the side.
And what's happened to Akbon Lahore? He seems to have gone off form completely.
Yeah, I think he was struggling with an injury as well. And when he did play, he was played out wide. Yeah. Now, yes, he's got pace to burn, but when he played up the front, he then made them runs into the channels and then took people out of their holes. When he starts out wide, they know where he is. There's no surprise element. You just get tight and stop him getting the ball turned and run at you. So I would say that Liverpool to beat Villa would be one that you could knock on, really.
Yeah, and stick it in your rackers if you wish. Let's talk about the other club on Merseyside, Everton. They're away at Carrow Road against the Norwich side that certainly surprised many this season. They're not going to go down, are they?
No, they're not. And the big thing for Norwich is a lot of people have got their ticket now. They are safe. I don't care what Lambert says. The intensity is not the same as it was prior to Christmas when they were fighting for their lives and having something to prove. I think Grant Holt is still suspended, who's their talisman. This is one of my flashes 5, and I've gone for the draw because, again, Everton don't whoop anyone, so they're not going to score 2 or 3 goals. Norwich very seldom don't score at home, so I see this as a scoring draw.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because not that many punters play the draw, but sometimes it's a real value pick.
Well, it is, especially when you've got sides. A lot of the time I pick the draw is when you've got sides that are so desperate for points that if they go 1-0 up, then they retreat and try and look after what they've got. And 9 times out of 10, when you try and defend, you get caught. And also vice versa, your want is so much that if you go 1-0 down, then you overload and go searching for that equaliser. So again, I've got that as 1-1 or 2-2.
OK, it might be another tight game at the Hawthorns where West Bromwich Albion take on Blackburn Rovers. Albion on a really poor run. And Blackburn, although they lost at United, they didn't disgrace themselves in that game.
No, they didn't, and they always carry a threat. And this has got the same sort of look about it as West Brom versus Newcastle a couple of weeks ago when we tipped up Newcastle. Again, Blackburn are in my flashes 5. And at 11-4, 5-2, I think that Blackburn, for me, are the favourites in this game.
Where's it gone wrong for West Brom over the last 4 or 5 weeks?
I think they had too much too quickly. Basically, they'd got there, they'd had a lot of success at home, they've got themselves into a safety net and basically took their foot off the gas, reliant very much on Shane Long or Odemwingie. But then what they've done is they've now gone to a 4-5-1, so only one of them two can play at any other time. All
right, a very brief look at the late game on Saturday, which is Stoke against Wolves. We reckon Wolves are dead. Can you back Stoke at 8-13? Is that
value? You can't. No, you can't. Again, the biggest value in this is probably a draw. I certainly wouldn't go near Wolves at 5-1 because they haven't got the players, both physically or mobility-wise, to trouble Stoke. So yes, I see Stoke winning, but again, at the start of the game, 3-1 looks value because they are. I can see it being tight for long periods.
Yeah, well, we're going to see that game at 5:30 tomorrow night. Wolves absolutely, desperately need a victory, and that still might not be enough. That's it for part one. We're going to come back very shortly with more football. Stay with us. You're watching The Punter on Sports Tonight Live on a very, very busy sporting Easter weekend. And I'm delighted to say Russ Wiseman's joined us from Sporting Bet. How are you, Russ?
Good form, Trev. Good to be with you boys. Obviously a little bit of a different slant on it this week. But I mean, as you said, Trevor, massive weekend of sport. Loads going on, loads of in-play betting.
Yeah.
I think if you're a punter this weekend, I mean, you've just got your arms full.
You don't need an Easter egg.
You don't know what to do.
You don't need an Easter egg.
You don't need to leave the house. No. Just don't leave the house.
It's a fantastic weekend, though, seriously.
We're going to talk about the title race, Russ, because Flash has been banging on about Man United all season. We know he's probably going to be proved right. Some bookies are even paying out on United. Are you convinced it's a done deal?
I don't think it's a done deal, but I do want to say one thing, Trevor.
Right.
It's very important, this, because we on the Punter, this is a really kind of intuitive, very, very sensitive betting show. We're giving great information out, and this gentleman here has been the only one. I promise you, the only one
Just
who hasn't been
that's
saying that City weren't good things. We're professional punters on, real students of the game. We've always suggested that City were a backable price, and the form horse is going to come through again. It looks like it's been an amazing season, but I mean, I think this is United's, for me, their crowning achievement. And one of the best I've seen.
If they do win it, is that a good result for you that City are going to be a loser for punters?
Two books to look at here, Trev, from a bookmaking perspective. The pre-season book, where United were a big loser. Everybody was backing them pre-season. I think that's because they were the defending champions. A lot of tipsters, the Racing Post, a few Shrewdies had put them up. But after that, since the season kicked off, it's been City all the way.
Right.
So I think they probably balance out. I haven't had a look at our field book at the moment, but I think it's probably going to be a winning result for us, which is a real rarity. And we saw some strange money for Spurs around about sort of 6-8 weeks ago.
That was strange
when they
money.
went into 6-1 at one stage.
And I think at the start of the season, with Chelsea not up there with the favourites. So, I mean, that's the other thing. Chelsea started so badly that they went from either being favourites or joint favourites to being fourth bet. And we spotted them very early on that we felt that they wouldn't even make the top four, and I still stick by that.
We know Manchester United now are very short. They have to be with the 5-point lead. Do you still see any money for United and all City at this stage of the season, or have people pretty much done their betting on this market?
No, you do see that the heavy hitters get involved, Trevor. And the truth is, as well, is that during the season, I mean, the big, heavier money was for Manchester City all the way along. When we took a lot of money at prices like 4 to 11, 3s on, even 2 to 7 at one stage. Wow. United were pretty much left alone.
Look where we are now.
And look where we are now, exactly
1 to 8.
Yeah. And it looks as though it's done and dusted, doesn't it? But I mean, we've been here before. United have been here before. It does look as though they're home and host, but there will be players out there, Trev, who will be prepared to wager £8,000. Make no mistake about it. I think the key bit though is this game against QPR. If they win that, the 8 points mentally will surely be too much for Man City.
Well, moving seamlessly on then to that game at Old Trafford. It's tomorrow, of course, Manchester United versus Queen's Park Rangers. QPR shocked Arsenal last week. Flash, can they do the same? It's at Old Trafford. It's a tough ask.
No, because the big thing is you're going to have to get tight all over the pitch. And the one problem that Queen's Park Rangers have is that they're too enthusiastic. They're disciplined, shocking. They're not together. They're reliant on individuals. And
You're not talking about Mr. Barton again, are you?
I've already you got Barton, Diakite, Zamora, Cisse, Tarapt. They're all individuals. I said very early on, I like the fact that Mark Hughes went to QPR, but he has really nice jigsaw pieces, but they don't fit.
Right. Well,
so it'll have to be next season for QPR. And what league they're in, you guess as good as mine.
I'd like to bet on Cisse more cards than goals. There's 2-2 at the moment. You mentioned punters are 8s on for the title, Russ. Are punters going to get involved at 6s on for this game?
I think they will. I mean, we've seen it before. The only crumb of comfort for bookmakers, I think, in this game, Trevor, is the fact that United, the last time we saw them at home, they were really poor actually against Fulham.
Yeah.
Fulham set themselves up to be defensive that night.
Should have got a draw with that.
Should have got a draw.
Wasn't.
And actually, and even over the course of the 90 minutes, forget that, they were probably the match of Manchester United that night.
Yeah.
However, the last time we saw them just on Monday night, they were relentless, weren't they, United? They just seemed to just deliver all the way through that game, and it was almost an inevitability, wasn't a flash, that they would get that winning goal. And Valencia, and obviously it was confirmed later on by Ashley Young. But 6 on, it's not really a working man's price, is it?
No.
But, it's a coupon play. You would imagine a handicap bet minus 1.5 goals may be a play for some people, but can you really make a case for QPR? I tend to agree with Flash. I'd love to say back the draw, but it looks highly unlikely to me.
Well, that's big odds on, of course, United QPR, but there'll be no odds on betting at the Emirates for a massive game on Sunday. Arsenal versus Manchester City. Two teams with their own agendas. City, of course, we've mentioned they need to keep in touch with United. Arsenal desperately trying to get a Champions League place. This should be a really entertaining game, and as the betting suggests, tight.
Yeah, very much so. And I'll be at this game, actually. I'm looking forward to it. I think, just looking at the prices there, no doubt in my mind, if we'd have taken this game just maybe a month ago, City would have been a lot shorter. There's no way they would have gone into this game as underdogs, which I think is pretty remarkable, to tell you the truth. I still think City have got a card or two to play here. Flash, you've been an advocate actually on the punter of Arsenal most.
Yeah,
most
I like
Arsenal. You've been proven right most of the time again, but this is the last chance for City. They cannot go to the Emirates and come away with even a point.
I can't split them. I cannot split them. I think that the most common opinion I have is probably, I keep coming back to it, it's probably a scoring draw.
Right.
Because Arsenal, they're all out. Man City have got goals in their side, even when they're not playing well. And I see maybe a sending off here that may then sway something. But I just feel it's going to be tight for quite a long periods of the game.
As a solid pro that you were, what's your opinion of the enigma that is Mario Balotelli?
Oh, it's my guilty pleasure. I think that when he's actually playing and he concentrates on football, he can do anything, and I think he's got the world at his feet. I think the other rubbish that he gets involved in, I think he shows so much immaturity. He's a player that's so individual that he thinks everyone revolves around him. I didn't like what happened last week. He got his 2 goals and then he wants to take a free kick when Kolomov's probably got one of the best strikes in the Premier League. He didn't bow down to his captain or any of the senior players. So again, I don't like him at all, but on his footballing ability, I think he's great. All
right, interesting. We're going to move on to the game between Everton and Sunderland. Now, we're still waiting actually for the blue square odds. We've got the sporting bet odds. Why are some bookmakers maybe reticent? Are they waiting for Saturday's games? What are they waiting for?
I'm not sure actually, Trevor, with this game. There may be some very important team news. I don't actually know the answer to that. But I mean, looking at the game just at face value, I mean, it's only 10 days ago that Everton went to the Stadium of Light, were convincing winners there. They were backed off the boards that night, Sunderland, actually. They were very heavily backed, and Everton did the business. And Everton, as is the usual now over the last decade, just coming good at this stage, just finding their feet. Moyes, this still bizarrely an underrated manager even at this point. And from a punting point of view, you can almost kind of write a formula now for Everton, leave them alone before Christmas, and then after in the new year, you can start backing them, and they're doing the business again. But you have to suggest maybe they've got one eye on this huge game next Saturday, and that might be the saving grace here.
But I think Sunderland have gone.
So you reckon 10 to 11, shade of odds on is worth a bet?
Well, yeah, apart from, and the only way I would go a little bit against that is probably to have the draw and be correct in 1-1, because they've played each other 3 times this year and there's been 3 1-1 draws. But when Everton drew 1-1 with them at Goodison in the first FA Cup game, they battered Sunderland and should have had 2 penalties that day. And then I even said that when they went to the Stadium of Light, I didn't have Sunderland down as favourites at all. They've got Jelavic now, who's finishing off good things. They've got a lot of players, a little bit like Man United, who haven't been there all season. They're coming back and they're now fresh. And I think 10 to 11 for Everton will be the way to go.
All right, Newcastle against Bolton is the next game that we're going to look at. We mentioned Alan Pardew earlier in the show. I mean, he's got a shout to be manager of the season, hasn't he?
Yeah, he certainly has. I mean, like him, love him, loathe him, you just cannot get away from what he's achieved. He's bought really well. He's bought on the cheap. He's gelled them. Mark Hughes would love to be in his position of the way that he's fitted the boys into a jigsaw, and they all seem to play for each other. And the big thing he's got Demba Cisse and Demba Ba, who love scoring goals for each other. That one scores, the other's just as happy. And this is the fifth leg of my Flash's 5. So let's hope we're waiting for Newcastle to beat Bolton come Monday.
Have punters latched on to Newcastle, Russ, in individual games? I mean, obviously we saw them humble United a few months ago. Have punters really, hang on, this is a decent side?
Yeah, definitely. Last 6 weeks, Trevor, they have. We kind of have teams rated in a certain way. This is a team we've had to re-rate because they're clearly on the field performances. They're clearly in the top 6 teams in the league. There's no question about that. I mean, you look at the way that their results have gone. Strangely enough, again last week, a lot of shrewd punters tipping up Newcastle to beat Liverpool. But again, the money coming for Liverpool. So a very strange team, but interesting to see how this one develops after Swansea, obviously on tonight, and then obviously this is the game they should do the business. Though.
8 to 13 Newcastle, 5 to 2 the draw, 4 to 1 if you want to back Bolton. That game on Monday at 3 o'clock. up at, I still call it St James's Park, I'm sorry,
Well,
I can't do the other thing.
You're right.
Right, let's move on to Tottenham versus Norwich. I remember when Spurs went to Norwich earlier in the season, around Christmas time I think, won easily. At that point they were 10, 12 points clear of Arsenal. Obviously they're now locked together, but they're very short for this game. And Norwich away from home have been, I won't say easy pickings, but their home form's been a lot better.
Yeah, you look at the size of the squad though, and you've got Tottenham will go to Sunderland, and then Tottenham come back home and play against Norwich, who have to, they haven't got a big enough squad to cope with 2 games in 3 days, and especially against the likes of Tottenham. Tottenham could bring in a Defoe and a Saha up the front, and yet have a completely different forward line away at Sunderland.
So do you see, Russ, people playing that 1-3 Tottenham? Will they play it as a single bet, or will they just throw it into their 3-timers, 4-timers, Ackers, whatever?
Both, Trevor,
right.
No question. I think you look at it as a 3s-on shot. You know, for most normal punters, that's probably too short. However, you know, I went to we're betting partners at Spurs Sporting Bet, and you boys are welcome to join me on Monday if you want to come along to the game. We're going to be there. But you know, I have seen people play Spurs very heavily. They were backed heavily at 4-11 against Bolton. You know, backed heavily again last week, and again I could see big hitters wading into this now. It looks as though they've just kind of moved over that kind of rocky patch, haven't they? And now, if you just look back to that game at Carrow Road, they were dominant that night, 2-0. These two teams match up very well in Spurs' favour. I think 3's on for a big, heavy play. You can actually make a case for it.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. And the other thing that people have got to realise is we're in the back end of the business end now. If you've got a team who's got something to play for, as big or as small as it may be, against a side who's got nothing to play for, then you oppose them because they put their towels down on their sun loungers. They're already thinking about holiday. The intensity is not as it is from August through to February.
All right, let's move on to Aston Villa versus Stoke. Villa can't afford to down tools because they, according to their manager even, are embroiled in something of a relegation fight. They need some more points, especially if they lose against Liverpool at the weekend. It's going to be a big game, Flash.
It is, but I do fancy that if there's one team that you want to come and visit and get points, and then it's Stoke. Because
we're agreed on this. They're a disgrace away, aren't they?
They just don't do anything away from home. Because they're not able to dictate. They haven't got the players, again, who have the same sort. They don't turn it on like they do at home. They're not as dynamic. They're not as forthright. And I see Villa. I think they could be a bit bigger than 5-4, but I wouldn't want to see any money for Stoke.
Yeah, you might see some money for Villa at 5-4. I don't know, Russ.
I don't mind it as a bookmaker, Trevor. This is a team in decline. You know, they're not really performing in any way. I mean, you look at these things in terms of value. I mean, I just cast my mind back to Stoke away at Spurs, and maybe Spurs were in the midst of a bad patch of form there, but Stoke were the match of the night.
That was one of the few times they did actually play.
Yeah, they played quite well that day. And I mean, like I say, if you want to back Villa at 5-2 or 11-8, 6-4, I think you're asking for trouble at the moment. They really are under pressure, and they're not quite clear, are they? They could be. I know it's difficult to see it, really. They could be dragged into something, but draw to me looks the value there, just given the nature of the two teams.
Just a quick negative against Stoke. Yeah. They do perform against your Liverpool aways, your Tottenham aways, your Valencias, or your other international sides. But when they go against sides where you would almost think they're probably better, they're favourites to win, they don't turn up.
Hence Wigan the other week.
Yeah, but it's been like that all season. Yeah. If their away form just sort of hinted like their home form, they would be a top 8 side.
Yeah, well, I wonder whether Tony Pulis might try and address that in the summer. One other game to look at in the Premier League, it's the West London derby, Fulham versus Chelsea. I just wonder us whether Chelsea's participation in Europe still and in the FA Cup might affect them in the league, because they're 5 points adrift of getting a Champions League place as we stand. Yeah,
I think that's probably a fair call, Trevor, overall. I think overall, if you look at the whole kind of scope of their form, it's still not good enough really to be backing them at this kind of price at a place like Fulham. This is a difficult side to beat on their own patch. They've been very, very strong all year. You remember, catches your mind back to Christmas time, Arsenal were the visitors and Fulham were superb that day. They could really make this difficult for Chelsea. And given the fact that they kind of scrambled home really in midweek, didn't they, against Benfica, I wouldn't want to be walking in at even money. Again, as a bookmaker, delighted to see money at that price.
So even money Chelsea, Flash, 12-5 Fulham, 9-4 the draw. Where's your money in this one?
Fulham all the way.
Right.
Fulham all the way, because the one thing that Fulham do, they have a horseshoe of 5 attacking individuals who can pop up with goals at any stage. Chelsea go there with no natural leader at the back, no organisation, Louise will come out with the ball and leave holes. Ivanovic will go walkabouts, and the one place you won't be able to do that is Fulham. I'll make Fulham favourites, and I'd lay Chelsea all day, every day.
And we mentioned, of course, the absence of John Terry. He's not going to play in that game.
No, he ain't. No. That's what I'm saying. They are really struggling for someone, and I could see him probably playing 2 holding midfielders. There could be an Obi Mikel and a Ramirez, and they're not allowed. They're under strict instructions to make sure that they block anything. But Fulham are very good at home, and they score goals.
All right, that game on Monday at 8 o'clock. When we come back from the break, we are going to talk golf because the Masters is in full swing. See you in a bit. Welcome back to the Punter, and we are going to talk golf because the Masters is in full swing. As a bookmaker, Russ, how difficult is it for your layers to adjust the prices literally shot by shot over 4 days?
Yeah, well, I mean, bookmakers aren't daft, Trevor. That's the first thing. We're not the softest in the world, and we have got a lot of systems in place, a lot of automated systems to trade these events. And obviously, the key thing for punters and bookmakers is having actually knowledge of what's going on in real time. Some of the pictures that we're seeing at the moment, some of the reports that we hear, can be up to a minute after the actual event. So we do need to kind of arm ourselves with information, same as punters do. But it's such a brilliant tournament to trade from a bookie's perspective, from a punter's perspective, that it kind of balances out over the 4 days. But people do believe that this is about Sunday night and right. the final charge. Yeah. I maintain, I always have done, that the value is to be had about now. We're kind of in the middle of a Friday here, second round. Yeah. This is the time where you can really spot somebody making charge. Maybe take 16s about a guy who should be say 7 or 8 to 1. That's the times you can really probably.
Well, let's have a look at how we stand right now. That's the leaderboard. Lee Westwood is level today through his first 4 holes, so he remains 5 under par. Shot 67 yesterday, of course. And behind him, a few moves being made. Crane and Johnson both under par for the day. Furyk and Stallings, who's a surprise name, who's up there. And Paul Lloyd doesn't go out till later after a great 69 yesterday. He wasn't on many people's radar. Your sort of 4 or 5 that you were interested in, Flash, they're all thereabouts.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, I couldn't be happier because the ones I put together, we can see on my shoulder. Cabrera 1 under, Kuchar 1 under. Cabrera was like 175s, so he's now 60s. Kuchar was 66s. Rose, he was around the 40s anyway. And obviously Tiger Woods, and we obviously spoke about Tiger back in last October, and I said that he was on his way back. And yesterday he had a shocker. He had an absolute shocker. He only hit 2 fairways. He did that maybe 3 or 4 times in the round 1 of Bay Hill. Yeah. He went back onto the range. He then stopped. Basically, he was getting too quick at the top, weight on the back foot, and trying to tug it because the difference between a cut and a tug is micro. Yeah, if he gets it right today, I could easily see him shooting a 67 or 68.
He was driving like a devil and putting like a god, wasn't he? There's the current prices we have. Westwood is now the favourite on the back of that 5 under par score. Tiger Woods is the one that interests me from a betting point of view, Russ. He was level par yesterday. We mentioned he's driving all over the place, but he sort of resurrected his round somehow. 7 to 1. I reckon you would have been knocked over pre-tournament. Yeah. What interests me is whether there's been any money since yesterday, because who can back him after that?
Yeah, it's a good shout, Trev, because he was always going to be a loser in the industry, regardless of anything, because he's Tiger Woods, because it's Augusta, and his record is absolutely mercurial there, isn't it? And the fact that he won Bay Hill just gives people extra incentive. So he was always going to be the wrong price. Let's be very clear on that. I think that's the one thing I would say about Woods. He may win it, but whatever you think about his in-running price, it will be the wrong price. And I'm talking about that from a maths point of view. We're not going to push him out.
As a punter, there's nothing you can do about that.
There's nothing you can do about that. I mean, that's the price we want to trade him at. I mean, obviously, exchanges, it's a very real price. That probably pushes him out more. But I always feel that, in play, you're taking a little bit of poor value if you back Woods. However, the guy's rewritten the form book in terms of betting on golf, and I know we're 8 to 1 at the moment. I mean, he's a big loser for us in this tournament. Would you believe it? McIlroy and Westwood for Sporting Bet are actually winners, but Woods is the huge loser in this field. So we desperately want to keep on the wrong side of him at the moment.
Westwood at 4s, Flash. I mean, he was under the radar, I think, at the start.
Well, he's world number 3 for a start.
But all the attention was on Rory and Luke Donald, and of course Tiger. Hard to fault Westwood yesterday. Is it more a mental thing now with him? He just has to hold it together because he's never won a major.
No, yeah, I mean, there's quite a few factors in. Westwood hit 16 greens in regulation, which is just 10 out of 10 golf. Yeah. If he drops down a little bit, I mean, that yesterday he shot a 67. It could easily have been a 63, 64.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about a different animal. Now, he's going to be at the top. He's going to be there to be shot at. I was told before the competition even started that 3 or 4 under was going to win it. And he's at 5 now. So again, you're seeing him going to come back, and come Sunday, you could have 10, 15 golfers all within a shot or two.
Wait till you see where they put the pins on Sunday, because they're not going to be
they had
friendly.
Sunday pins yesterday.
Well, yeah, and it's going to get worse.
And quicker.
And it's going to blow today as well. Any interest in Westwood after that round yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what happens is, Trev, when you see the opening round, there are a gang of punters, a certain condition that punters like to just back the first 2 in the market. And
after day one?
After day one. They just want to do it. And listen, he's not exactly a small name, Westwood, is he?
No.
He's a seriously good golfer. Obviously, the fact that he hasn't won a major before is a slight worry, but this is a big boys golf course now. You've got to hit the ball a long way. It takes a lot of players out of the mix. You know, Westwood, if you look at him now, he's in better physical shape than he's ever been in. He's a beast, this guy. So I mean, he won't want for any kind of physical aspect to this. He will be there at the end, I'm sure. But there's a lot of mental tests for him at the moment, and it's not an easy thing to go wire to wire, the Masters. Let's be clear on that. Probably not the worst thing in the world for Lee Westwood, and I mean this in the right way. But if he's just kind of sitting off the pace, because it is so difficult with the pressure that's heaped on you to lead all the way.
Has the volume of golf betting increased dramatically over the last, say, 10 years or not?
Well, there's 2 ways of looking at it. There's the pre-Woods mishap and the post-Woods kind of trauma, if you like. I mean, when he came into it and when he won his first Masters, let's bear in mind as well, he was 4 over after 9 holes at that time when he won the Masters in his first ever major. I think that was about 15 years ago now, isn't it? So if you look at that, that really was the explosion of golf betting. All the way through that, that really did take it to a new level. TV coverage, the media coverage, the way that we all look at golf, stats, everything really led up to that. Since Woods' kind of demise, it's come right off again. But this is a tournament, again, that kind of breaks the barrier. And we're in this golden week of sport, aren't we? There'll be massive punting on this event all the way through.
And the big thing is, when he's talking about when Tiger Woods came along, all of a sudden golf, you could actually see a golfer winning a tournament on a Thursday. And then when Tiger wasn't playing, you had, in that golden era, you had VJ and Mickelson, Payne Stewart, Davis Love. You could, and VJ, you had them 5 against the field every week. And you had them. Now, Tiger went out, all of a sudden you got new winners. You have 15 different winners all season. Now, all of a sudden this year, Mahan's won twice, Rory's won once, Donald's won once. The big names are coming to the top again. Yeah,
we know it's going to be gripping, that's for sure, because it always is. And don't ring me Sunday night, because I won't answer the phone. We're going to move away from golf now and talk Heineken Cup. We mentioned volumes of betting on golf. What about rugby? How does that sit?
Well, rugby is a sport that bookmakers generally find it very difficult to win on. That's the first thing.
Because the punters know more than them?
The punters know every bit as much as we do. The margins are very tight, so the handicap line is kind of a very sensitive line. I think that punters have got a real edge in this sport. No doubt about that in my mind. We've never made money in it. Sporting bet has never been a big one. It's really performed as a service. There are certain firms who are very, very good at rugby. Sporting Index from a spread point of view, they're very, very shrewd on this. But I find it to be a difficult one. It definitely is one that punters should be focused on.
Right, so 7-4 Leinster. It's 4-1 bar. That brings in Munster. Looks like the Irish are well fancied here. A couple of rags in there, Cardiff Blues and Edinburgh. Any value stick out there, Flash?
Well, I'm going to contradict myself here in one sentence. Leicester and Leinster are the best side, bar none. They turn up, they win. But they won it last year. No side has ever retained it. But they've got to go to Saracens. And if the Saracens beat them, then all of a sudden Saracens at 6-1, they'll be the value.
Yeah, well, no side has ever retained the Champions League, but Barcelona might do it.
No, they won't. Bayern Munich will. Bayern Munich will win it.
That's a different argument. Let's move away from the Heineken Cup and talk snooker, because it's a massive event now, betting-wise. It's at the Crucible later this month, Russ. What sort of money do you see during the tournament?
During the tournament's terrific, Trevor. Absolutely terrific. And it's game-by-game frame betting. All the in-play. I mean, would you believe it? One of the biggest markets you see in snooker night is next frame betting. So you'll be watching it at home. It's the way that we like this instant fix as a punters do now. So that's where the big money is. But just have one look at that field there. All of those guys got very real chances.
They could all win it.
I mean, they all could win. I mean, we're looking at this. We're 13-2 the field, nearly 7-1 the field here. No standout player. It gives us a great opportunity, and that's why we've seen some really strange results over the years. It would not shock me in any way if there's a guy who's not on that list who comes through this year and kind of trumps it, because it's just about playing well. Just for a fortnight.
Are you continually trying to think up different markets? I mean, obviously you do the outrights and the frame scores. Are you trying to find any quirky markets around? Because the spread boys do that a bit.
Yeah, we do try and do it, but the reality is that people do tend to go back to the things that they like the most.
Yeah.
So who's going to win the match? Who's going to win the tournament? The next frame betting. We do have, first colour potted, this kind of stuff. But these are all novelty markets, and we see what happens when we offer a no ball in a cricket match. We get all kinds of trouble. So
we're not going to go down
the fun and novelty markets are there. They're there for fun, but the real money goes on the core markets. That's the key bit.
And we were talking about it earlier this month, I think, Flash, weren't we? And reckoning that that Selby might be a decent bet, and Judd Trump as well. Yeah,
and obviously Ding. The thing is, it won't be long before one of them Asian boys actually come across and win it. But yeah, Judd Trump, 13,000. Look how brave Sporting Bet are over their rivals, Blue Square. Because Judd Trump is probably one of the biggest enigmas, and Selby is the world number one. And the world number one is like full favourite in their book. So for me, Selby at 9-1 is massive value. He's been there, seen it, done it, plays under the lights. But Ding Zhong, I'd like to see him win it.
Interesting. I mean, Sporting Bet, they're 1.5 bigger about Trump, 2 points bigger about Ronnie, point bigger about Selby. And Robertson, of course, who's won it very recently. I mean, he can't be discounted either.
Well, I think it's just a tournament where the reason, to be fair to Blue Square, the terrific firm they are, I'll put my life on it. They're bigger about some of the guys down the bottom. There's some of the guys that I actually fancy, to tell you the truth, and we'll be a bit short.
Steve Davis, is he going to make it?
I saw John Parrott, my old mate John Parrott went out 5-0 in qualifying, so he won't be getting his title back. I mean, this is a good event for betting now.
It's one of the great things, isn't it, Russ, now, compared to, say, 20 years ago, where there were only 2 or 3 bookies. Now there are so many. Punters look around, they use the old oddschecker.com. Who's the best price bet Trump? That firm, bet with them. There's no loyalty there.
And there's going to be no excuses. The value is there. I mean, you get a one-stop shop. It's like moneysupermarket.com.
Yeah,
you can actually find out where the best is. So, and for a minor event like that, not a minor event, but a minor sport like snooker, we have to actually kind of showcase ourselves with better prices. And, we're probably sticking our neck above the line a bit too much on a few of those players, but we want to see some turnover. And like I say, that's the kind of event we think we might get a result.
Are there big hitters who'll come in and have maybe 10 grand on O'Sullivan or something, or not in snooker?
I would have thought so for the actual outright. I mean, you certainly, when there are people who are very shrewd at snooker who notice queuing actions, they really are hanging on around the Crucible, understanding what's going on. They might step in after they see a couple of matches who's playing particularly well. But at this stage, the way that the form book is with snooker all over the place, I think it's probably a watching brief, Trev.
All right. Well, talking about playing well, we can certainly say that about England's cricketers in the current test against Sri Lanka. 1 day to go. Just 4 more wickets they need in Sri Lanka with a small lead of 30-odd. 4-9 about England, 21-10 withdrawal, 16 Sri Lanka. I don't normally like betting odds on, but this could be over in 2 hours tomorrow morning for me.
Could be. And England have actually played every single day brilliantly so far in this match. Attritional, concentrated, brilliant cricket. Test match cricket is best. There's one problem for England at the moment, and that is in the form of Mahela Joe Warden at the moment, who, this guy is godlike in the way that he wants to play. He could easily face 50 overs tomorrow.
He could be 70 not out. We'll get him out the other end. I mean, Swan, how often those 2 late wickets today, Flash, changed the whole complexion of things, and the spirit of Sri Lanka, which was up, is now down. He's a magic man, Swan, isn't he?
He certainly is, and because he gets more turn, he gets more bounce. He's always messing about with the batsmen. Batsmen think they're playing down the right line, and especially now with the DRS. Even when the batsmen think they're right, he just reviews it, and he comes out 9 times out of 10 in his favour. And he is probably the best off spinner in the world. 4-9. I'd expected that to be like 1-5, because we tipped him up in after day 1 at 4-6, and there's just no way he'll run out of partners, Joe Warden. I can see him being not out at the end of it.
Just one point on it though. I mean, trading these games and running as a bookmaker, if after 5 or 6 overs the ball's not beating the bat and they are there, you'd be amazed how quickly people start latching onto the draw and things.
But the tail end, the towel of Sri Lanka is not wagged.
No, and then we'll get 8-11 England. Flash and I are going to see Russ now to get some money on England at 4-9, and we'll see you after the break for Flash's 5. Welcome back, you're watching The Punter. And this is the part of the show I know you sit there poised with notebook, pen in hand, because it's Flash's 5. Let's look at what happened last week, Flash, first of all. How'd you get on?
I got 3 out of 5. Poor old Channers, because the ones I got right were the opposite to where he put the kids' money. Went for Fulham to beat Norwich, and he went Norwich to beat Fulham. I went Everton to beat West Brom, and he went West Brom to beat Everton. Leicester to beat Peterborough. Leicester were an absolute shambles that day. I got a report afterwards, and Peterborough could have won by more. And Leeds to beat Watford. Leeds were desperate on that day, and Watford won 2-0 and could have won by 4. So I just got them completely wrong. And Gillingham were my naps, and they duly beat Macclesfield. Gillingham are going great guns at the minute. They've got a lot of kids that they were forced to throw in just after Christmas, and a lot of them kids are now staying in and around the squad. So they've got a squad of about 20 to pick from every game. So 3 out of 5 not good enough because we need at least 4 to get a result. But we're 180 to 1 up on the year, so we're going okay.
It's kind of like my school report, sort of C+ could do better.
Oh, definitely do better.
He's been informed. Again, this is sickening for me to say this, Trevor, but I mean, because I just seem to be kind of Flash's personal fan club. But you can only go on results. He really has had a terrific season. I think if we got a kind of portfolio of what he's done this year, it's been really spot on most of the year.
All right. Well, let's look ahead to who you fancy in the coming week, because that's what our punters are really interested in. Where are you going, Flash?
I'm going to go with Tottenham to beat Sunderland away. I think it's genuinely about 15 to 8, 2 to 1, so which is great value. Blackburn to beat West Brom. Again, Blackburn, because they're so strong, the need. This is what I said to you earlier about West Brom. They're on holiday, and they've been dreadful for the last few weeks. Blackburn need to score goals, and when they get in front, I don't expect West Brom to cause many problems. Norwich draw against Everton. Again, both these sides have not really got a lot to play with. Norwich normally score. Everton are in better form. Yeah. So again, I see that as a scoring draw, 1-1, 2-2. Brentford to beat Bury. Brentford have now just picked up again under Juve.
They're on a good run, aren't they?
Yeah, under Juve Rosler. They are. Bury are not a side that travel well and they don't score goals. And Newcastle to beat Bolton on Monday. Not because anything special. I expect Newcastle to have too many guns for Bolton, but it's nice to know that your 5-timer is waiting on St James's Park on Monday.
Well, we shall see how you get on with those. I mean, Russ, what are bookmakers' opinion generally about people who play ACCAs? Would you rather see just straight singles, or do you think, yeah, great an ACCA because they're not going to get 5 out of 5 here?
Listen, the overall percentage of money we make on accumulators and 5-timers, 6-timers, those kind of bets is it's an exotic bet for a reason because they've rarely come in. Yeah. Of course, there are very shrewd people out there, Flash being one of them, who are very selective about what they do. But I think that generally the bigger money is made on people steaming into something that they are absolutely convinced about, and that's what they believe the prices are right. I think traditionally our prices are right on everything, and therefore if you're going to pick 5 games, it gives us 5 chances to probably give you a banana skin. But I mean, like I say, there's people out there who know so much about football these days. I think the Premier League and Championship are difficult leagues to focus on. I think if you go down those leagues, the size of the bets is probably not as big, but they are more of a concern to bookmakers than some of these big hitting bets on the top games.
I know you had to change your approach over the last few years, because when I first started betting 20 odd years ago or more, you couldn't bet single on a League One game or whatever. Now you can, and so maybe you were protected, really, weren't you? People had to play trebles.
Completely, yeah. I mean, when I first came into the business 20 years ago, that's what it was. Trebles only, unless it was a live game. Now, what that's done though is that's probably been the main reason for such an explosion in betting on football, because people don't have to just worry about going to the League Two game Aldershot. They can actually watch that game, have a bet in it, and take the winnings if they're right. I think it's the main reason that, like I said, that football is the biggest sport to bet on, and I think trebles only. That was really hurting people. That was, I mean, you could go through a whole year, couldn't you, miss one? But I think this is what makes football betting so great. When I look at Flash's 5, I always like to pick out 1 or 2. It's usually the wrong 1 or 2, Flash, because you always get 3 out of 5 every week. But I mean, that's the way I like to play it. But it wouldn't surprise me if 4 or 5 of them came in. So
and what we do is we do say that because when they're not like 1 to 3s and that, we do say 5 4-timers and an ACCA. Yeah. Because we've had, I think, 4 out of 5. I think we've had about 10 or 12 times.
So you've got a small safety net there.
Yeah. So even on a bad weekend when we don't get the 5, we still maybe clear 10 to 1 winnings. Yeah. Because the 4-timer normally pays about 16 to 1. Take away your 6 points that you've started with, you're normally about 10 to 1. We're 180 to 1 up on the year.
Yeah,
so
which is fantastic.
Exactly.
Amazing.
And punters always remember that one time when their ACCA came up, more than when they had, I don't know, 40 quid on one horse or one football team.
Well, it's the nature of it, isn't it? I mean, those exotic bets, those ones that have got a bit of romance to it, a story that can be told. I mean, I always think that punters like fishermen. They like to tell a story about how they actually got this bet home and how he reeled it in. And I think that's part of the joy of it as well. But if you land a 5-timer like the ones that Flash did just a fortnight ago, you can dine out a little bit on that, can't you?
And the other beauty, Flash, of course, is with those bets, you don't need much on, do you?
No, again, it's just if you've got 5 4 times an ACCA, It's £6. If you just say it was £1 each, it's £6. And once you get the 5, it pays 137 to 1. You're going to come out winning £130 for 6.
All right, let's have a look at Neil Channing's charity bet then from last week. Perhaps you can take us through this, Flash. He got 1 out of the 3. One out of 4, actually.
I mean, first of all, he went for Norwich. He went for Norwich to beat Fulham.
Yeah.
And I think Fulham were 1-0 up inside 2 minutes. So I think he knew his fate there, although Norwich did come back strong second half. Fulham won 2-1. West Brom to beat Everton. Again, Everton are strong now. They don't let goals in. And that was always going to be. He's been roped in there. The 4-1 was just too tasty for him because he hasn't looked at the teams. He's looked at the odds and thought 4-1 West Brom. Earlier on in the season, maybe against Everton. Not now. Bolton to beat Wolves. Well, I mean, you take anyone to beat Wolves. I've got an under-15 side that would take on Wolves at the moment, so that was a give me. This is a brave bet now that Channers comes up with, and Channers knows his stuff. Yeah. But he comes from more of a mathematical background,
yes, indeed.
And he wanted to lay Spurs, and Van der Vaart scored, so Spurs are winning at half-time, even though he thought that they would come and win the game at the end. So Van der Vaart's cost him there £180 at even.
It's still very important that people understand that Neil Channing operates this from a very analytical point of view. You will be in front over the course following what.
He's
totally different style of punter to Flash.
Yeah.
But neither of them is wrong. In fact, they're both right, but just for different reasons.
Yeah, he will find you. He will go against the grain. He will stand in the room with 20 other people, and he'll be the only one who will say to you, "No, hang on, they're not 6-1 chances." Yeah. And after the game, he'll be the only one smiling because he got a winner at 6-1, whereas other people have been done at 2-5.
All right. Well, just to tell you, by the way, no Neil Channing charity bet this week, and there's a good reason for that. He's across the pond in Ireland in a poker tournament, so maybe the advice is back him to win that, and you'll probably get a winner anyway. Gents, been great having you. I want 2 words from each of you before we go. Who's going to win the Masters? Flash.
I'm going to roar like a tiger.
Okay.
Lee Westwood.
Ah, so he's going for the man in front. Fantastic. Will all be revealed over the next few days at Augusta. Flash, as ever, thank you very much indeed. And Russ, thanks very much as well.
Great fun.
Really interesting. Thank you for watching as well. More of the Punter coming your way very shortly. But for now, it's goodbye.
Stay ahead of the game with Sports Tonight Live. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Sports Tonight Live on Facebook and like our fan page. Follow Sports Tonight TV on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts and opinions. Sports Tonight Live, it's the platform for the fans.